Welcome to our forum today. Firstly, I will introduce myself. My name is Tharsika. Will be your moderator today. Today, so the main question that will be discussed, this topic will be learning in a foreign language, where there are any aspects such as learning pronunciation drills, learning grammar rules, a small group conversation, reading and writing easier than others for you. I'm sure that every one of us have own opinion on this topic. Before we proceed to our forum, I would like to introduce our panelists today. Our first panelist, Madam Hamssavartini, English lecturer at University Selangor. Our second panelist, Dr. Vaisniya, head of University Selangor Faculty Education and Social Science. And also we invited two students from University Selangor, which is Rebecca Mary and Tharani.
How are you, doctor? I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Fine. How are you, Madam Hamssavartini?
I'm fine. How about you?
Fine.
Thank you to our lovely moderator. Good morning, everyone. So, as our topic is about foreign language, it's easier for ourselves than others. As teacher, I relate this and also have a better approach from others. Let's see what's that. So, here are some of my views. In my opinion, consuming foreign language through media is a good way. As an example, watching Netflix. Watching Netflix will help your skills and also be able to hear a variety of different accents. Watching Netflix helps us to be more familiar with the sounds and the rhythm of language by reading the subtitles, by listening to what they are trying to say. And that's all from me. Thank you. I'll pass to this moderator.
Thank you, Madam Hamsa. Now let's move forward to our next panelist, Dr. Vaisniya. May I know what's your opinion?
Thank you, Tharsika. First and foremost, let me give you a glimpse of the definition of listening. Traditionally, listening was viewed as a passive process in which our ears were receivers into which information was poured, and all the listeners had to do was passively register the message. Today, we recognize that listening is an active process and that good listeners are just as active when listening as speakers are when speaking. So, based on what Stephen Krashen had stated, is that the input hypothesis is one of the most influential theories of second language acquisition. He argues that comprehensible input is the most important factor in learning another language. Here's why it matters. So, let's dive into it, shall we? But before that, here's what you need to know. The input hypothesis states that language learners improve in a language when they are given language input that is slightly more advanced than their current level. Krashen called this as I plus 1. Where I is the person, current language level, and plus 1 represents language that is slightly more advanced than their current level. In simple words, language acquisition happens through an unconscious process. The necessary ingredient, the critical and unconscious process, essential core of that unconscious process is called comprehensible input. So, what is this comprehensible input, you might ask? So, comprehensible input is, in English, is English language that you can understand. So, language inputs are things that you hear like podcasts, the radio, conversation, or movies such as Netflix, as what Madam Hamsa has mentioned earlier, as well as things you read like books, articles, or English plots and whatsoever. So, Krashen question is careful to specify that you just can't read or listen to anything and improve your language. However, you have to read or listen to things you can understand. Language acquisition happens best, he says, when the input is just slightly more advanced than your own level. That is all from me, I guess. I'll pass it back to the moderator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vaisniya. From your explanation, I strongly agree that realism theory is applied in learning foreign language through the media as what Madam Hamsa explained earlier. Let's have a Q&A section.
Madam, I have a question. Based on what you say, which age group people can learn second foreign language?
So answer to Tharani's question. From my point of view, I think learning should start before the age of 10. The ability of learning a new language grammatically is the strongest until the age of 18, after which there is a precipitous decline.
Yes, I definitely agree to what you have stated. As what Stephen Krashen viewed, age affects second language acquisition in a number of ways. It affects the amount of comprehensible input that is obtained, whereby younger learners may get more than older learners. Besides that, I can also add on that the innatist theory by Noam Chomsky also applies to this. This is due to that Chomsky hypothesizes that infants must be born with some special built-in ability to learn language. So they believe that babies enter the world with a biological propensity and inborn device to learn language. So a child's brain contains special language learning mechanisms at birth. This human built-in device for learning language has been coined the LAD. So LAD is language acquisition device. So I've made a short flow of what does it look like. So the linguistic input, it feeds into the LAD, which is the brain module. So we have the linguistic processing skills and also existing knowledge. And it generates a theory of language, which are the phonology, morphology, semantics, and also syntax, and which determines a child's grammatical competence, which is the comprehensions of other speech and also speech production. That is all from me.
Thank you, Dr. Vaisniya.
And the second question is, what if that a person traveled to abroad without a single knowledge of foreign language? Madam, can you explain me the consequences?
Okay, it was actually a good question, Rebecca. Learning a foreign language has some obvious benefits. However, it also has heavy consequences. Firstly, professional disadvantage. The business world is highly competitive and many people actively look for putting themselves ahead in the job market. Secondly, if you don't know how to speak language, you may feel isolated and lost during the trip. I guess, however, we have to learn a foreign language before we travel anywhere. And that's all from
Finally, we have to come to the end of our forum where we share a lot of knowledge which we didn't know or thought before I will end our discussion. With thanks to all of panelists and audience. Thank you very much.